business to come before the council?
I
I'm gonna call a recess for,
actually have one item I wanted to bring up.
okay.
I have an
Mr.
item.
Page, I'm gonna give Mr. Page the floor here in just a moment. Everybody get seated, get calmed down.
Sorry.
Mr. Page, you have the floor.
Yeah, I apologize. I tried to intervene there. There is a resolution in the informational packet for Mr. Richard Eaton, who served on council, who recently passed away. And I think it just recognizes its service. And I know in the past we've done this for some other people, not everybody. But I was contacted by a citizen and asked about this, and I think Mr. Nash may have been too. And I think I asked Philip, and I think he asked Billy to write it. And you know, just out of respect for serving the community and working on council, I would ask that we adopt this resolution. I'd like to make a motion.
Okay,
we
hold
do
on just a minute. Now, in the future, when at the beginning of the meeting and I ask for any agenda items, I would prefer them to be added then. But I'm gonna let you bring this up, but I'm just saying that's what I asked for, if you had any items that you wanted to add to the agenda.
Oh, I didn't hear
First
that. I
of
apologize. I thought it was going to be handled on the mayor's minute. I apologize.
So,
It's on page 211. In your,
members of council, you've heard Mr. Page has moved that a resolution in memoriam of the late Richard Eaton that was composed by former Mayor Colburn, that he's asked for this to be adopted. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Nash is second. Is there any discussion?
He served how many years?
4.
What about people who have served longer?
Well, I had the privilege, I'm sorry, Mr. Gormas, I had the privilege to sit next to your mother, who was a pioneer was one of the original black ladies to serve. And
I'm sitting here today.
And I don't remember how many, good gracious, was it 28 years or
28.
28 years she served, and I don't recall doing anything. The late great Jerry Wilson sat in this seat, and I believe his tenure was 52 years, if I'm not mistaken. He was a pioneer in everything he did. He spent countless hours establishing relationships with our U.S. congressmen and our U.S. senators. So that was the reason that that's my thoughts. Mr. Gorman, you have the floor.
Is there any criteria that must be met for a memoriam? I mean, I read through the document. He was involved in some recycling efforts, coordinating Dollar General's deliveries, parking, and part of wanting to preserve the armory, from what I saw with the highlights of the council activities.
big in the Armory project, but also adopting this memoriam doesn't stop us from adopting others. We just did one in June for the gentleman who served on council back in the late 80s, early 90s, and dedicated a bench.
We didn't have a resolution. A bench was with a plaque on it was installed out here in front of town hall. You know, and Mr. Neal was a pioneer as well. That he fought vigorously for and got the ward system in place, and so I think that bench was well warranted. But I don't recall in my 8 years on council that we've ever presented a resolution at the passing of one of our former council members, and I've served with 4 that have passed on.
I can tell you, I didn't know Mr. Eaton. Never, I don't think I've ever met him. This was brought to my attention, and I asked Phil about it. He said he thought it was a fair request. I think there's some citizens that would like to see us, recognize Mr. Eaton, his hard work with the Armory and other projects that he did. It doesn't stop us from passing other resolutions, and at the end of the day, it has no effect on anything that we do or how the town runs its business.
Did his family ask for it, or did citizens ask for it?
I think the folks who worked with him on projects asked for him. He has a family member, but the family member lives in Alaska. And I think that was one reason why it's so long for the funeral to get done. Very long time. So.
I know that when Miss Thompson retired, was there something about her bridge? Was that something that we did specific to something she was passionate about?
Well, we were going to do that bridge since my first time on council was
Yeah.
2004.
I know that.
That was Barbara's Bridge in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
So
is,
It really wasn't
Bradley-
done, I don't, if she was still on council, it would have been Barbara's Bridge.
I know that, I didn't know Mr. Eaton personally, but, for the sake of, we always talk about precedent up here, and for the sake of not starting something that can, if we do it for everybody, it'll diminish, and I'd rather recognize somebody for something that they've worked on. Is there maybe we can revisit this with a plaque or something for the armory when we start to get that project complete. And, cause I know that from everything that I've heard from the community, Mr. Eaton was passionate about that. And, I think, in my opinion, I think that would mean more, from a passion project of his. And I
think
don't
it's
think it would
Fair
set this
compromise.
precedent to,
Yeah, I think it's a fair compromise, because I mean, like you're saying, if you president, I mean, it's literally, I mean, no disrespect at all. I've met him once or twice, but I didn't know him. But if we do this, then I mean, everybody that serves a term, you know what I mean? It's sad.
But not doing it is also, I mean.
But what he's talking about is like a compromise.
Right, no, and I get it, but saying, hey, we're not gonna do this means we're also not gonna do it for everybody.
Well, I think
You know what I mean?
Right.
Well,
So, I mean,
established
it
criteria.
doesn't hurt anything to do
meet.
it.
we're having this conversation. I
Yeah.
feel like, to be honest, it kind of drags Mr. Eaton's name in this. But I think ultimately all this came from was because, I know there were several people on vacation that day, and the memorial service was months after the passing. But I think that's where all this stemmed from, was the fact that there wasn't some sort of town representation at the memorial service. I even hate for us to be debating
Yeah, it's
a
weird.
past citizen and council members, whether they're worthy or not. I do like Jake's idea, yes, of the armory plaque. It feels weird debating whether or not somebody, but yes, precedence, and it's a tough.
Precedence
It's
works
not-
both ways is all I'm
it's
saying.
not exactly fair.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about a gentleman who can who can't advocate or defend himself for an issue. I think that, we should stick with what we've been doing with passion projects, and that doesn't, and I will say that I don't think that means that every council member that passes that served up here deserves something. And that certainly includes myself. If I were to pass on some tragedy, I haven't done anything to deserve that yet. But I believe, from everything I've heard from Mr. Eaton's work with the Armory, I think that would be a fair cause.
I would agree. I have no problem with the plaque. I also don't have a problem with the resolution. And precedent works both ways, is all I'm saying.
All right, any other members of council have any comments? We have a motion and a second to enter this resolution, adopt this resolution and enter it into the record. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
All right, I'm gonna ask for a roll call vote, beginning with Mr. Allman.
Nay.
Nay.
Aye? Didn't we just vote on it?
I could
He
not
couldn't
determine,
tell us,
I could
yeah.
not determine the vote, so.
Nay.
Nay.
Motion fails 1 to 5.
I'd like to offer
But
a
again,
second
I would like
motion.
I would like to revisit this one,
That'd be fine.
For
When we,
something special.
when we do grand opening or ribbon cutting or something like that, I
Well-
totally agree.
If we're gonna, that's a year away.
August next year. Should be.
Or we're in trouble with funds. Yep. You have the floor, Mr. Page.
I was just saying, we could pass that motion now, that we create a plaque to go in the armory when it opens. And,
I would like for the Armory Committee to have some input on this. Does that sound fair?
I think Chris just wants to make sure we don't forget it, and I don't think our clerk will let us forget.
well, we say a lot of things are gonna get done, they don't get done.
Well, at this point, you may make a motion.
Yeah. I make a motion that we order a plaque, thanking Mr. Eaton for his hard work on the armory, and that we work with the Armory Committee to make the right plaque and the right wording, and that we present it upon the grand opening of the armory.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Page has moved that the town creates a plaque and work with the Armory Committee, and have this displayed in our new armory. Then we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I agree with Jake that the Armory Committee should be a part of that decision.
I concur.
I'm gonna ask for a roll call vote, beginning with Mr. Allman.
Nay, because I'd like to hear from the Armory Committee.
same, nay.
Nay.
Aye.
Nay.
Motion fails 2-4. Any other business to come before council?